Hey mechheads, notice anything different about these BAWS MTs? No, it's not the fact that it can use a pulse blade. Take a closer look. See that little extra something that distinguishes it from the other BAWS MTs? If you're a mecha fan in general, you might recognize what this finned variant of a mass production unit represents, and what series this concept is paying tribute to. The idea of a fin on a variant mech comes from the Zaku 2 commander type, a mech from the original Gundam series. This fin helps differentiate it from the standard model. Not only was this mech, or mobile suit, as it's called in the series, better in terms of material quality, but it also had various performance improvements over the mass production version. Since the Zaku 2 commander type was made specifically to be used by ace pilots, no expense was spared in its development. For example, by having the safety limiters removed and its thruster systems improved, it can now move up to 3 times faster than normal, which some of you that are watching already know. This makes it quite difficult to control by anybody but the best, and thus, a waste of resources if given to an inexperienced pilot. The same could be said with what may have been the intended purpose of this unknown MT variant, or as I'd like to call it, the BAWS MT Elite Edition. It was most likely meant to be a variant that stood above the mass production model in terms of quality and performance, and thus, as I said before, given a fin or antenna to visually tell it apart from the standard models. The model itself can be found in the Assets folder under model number AEG 008030. When extracted, I found that the fin piece was already UV mapped, which is unusual, since other unused assets usually had none, further adding to it being an intentional design choice, as well as the MT being meant for the final game before becoming cut content. There was a part I did accidentally remove the first time I brought it into Blender without a second thought. When I looked at it again, I realized it was a piece that appeared to be a small light or a scope. This unintentionally led to the creation of 2 different Elite MTs, one with the decorative fin and the other with the fully functional sensor type. When viewed carefully in its original file, it can be seen that there's effect marks of sorts where the scope or sensor is, meaning that it was intended to be a functional part of the fin. Perhaps it was meant to glow in the same fashion as the main camera unit on the MT bellies. As for its presence in the game as a mech wreck, I did wonder if it was something that somebody might stumble upon in one of the levels. I originally assumed it would be an unused asset, but thanks to the global search function in Vawser's very intuitive and amazing modding tool, Smithbox, which I should mention is what makes this and all other AC mods possible. I was able to pinpoint the exact location of the wreck within the game thanks to this very function. When I saw where it was, I thought to myself, is the location the reason the majority of people hadn't noticed it before? It was just laying there, smack dab in the middle of where one of the most pivotal and chaotic moments in the game would happen, which is during the PCA's surprise attack on the Archivist forces in the mission, Steal the Survey Data. I went there to check it out myself, expecting to see something of significance. But when I arrived, there was nothing at the spot. I had wrongly assumed that the reason I never noticed it before was because the PCA warship or a random MT probably destroyed it during the attack. But it either simply didn't load or might have shown up somewhere else in the level, as sometimes assets that show up in the maps within Smithbox will be located somewhere else in the game. Since the BAWS MT Elite has no in-game stats, I would give it a performance upgrade over the standard version that parallels that of the Zaku 2 and its commander type variant, but with a twist. On top of having a generator with even greater output that could support the use of energy demanding weapons and equipment, it would also be made of the same materials as ACs, making it far more durable than ordinary MTs, obviously, which I assume are made of cheap steel or other low-grade metals. Not only that, thanks to the improved structural integrity and increased energy output, it would also be able to use and handle AC-grade energy weaponry, ranging from pulse blades to laser rifles. There will also be 2 types of BAWS MT Elites to make use of this newfound power, each represented by the fin type on it. The type without a sensor on its fin would specialize in close-range combat, my favorite style of fighting, while the second type with the functional antenna would excel in mid to long range combat, thanks to the sensor which most likely improves the fire control system. Both types use the higher output to be able to use weapons and equipment that are far more energy demanding than the standard issue BAWS MT stuff, as mentioned before. Things like pulse shields and back boosters used in conjunction with laser weaponry is now possible. Those that use back boosters, however, would have to forego the use of pulse shields in favor of a solid one in order to free up energy. The extra output would be needed to operate the extra boosters, which would allow them to go much faster than any of the other models. In the hands of a highly skilled pilot, the BAWS MT Elite could perform difficult, high-speed maneuvers that would otherwise be impossible. This greater mobility would allow it to better utilize tactics not normally possible for a standard BAWS MT, such as hit-and-run assaults or even kiting. This also gives it an advantage in close-range combat, as it can easily bridge the gap in distance to deliver highly damaging attacks with its pulse blade or other melee weapons. The BAWS MT Elite is powerful enough to handle a standard MT force 2 to 3 times its size, especially if they hit him hard enough before a proper engagement, thanks to the long-range variance of this unit. As you can see from the footage, standard BAWS MTs could not compete with the superior performance of the Elite variants, even with having a huge advantage in numbers. While the average AC is easily capable of taking out up to 30 BAWS MTs without any trouble, with how strong the BAWS MT Elite is in overall combat performance, it would only take 3 to 5 of them to take down an AC. Although the teamwork has to be flawless in order for them to come out on top without any losses. As I mentioned earlier, since the BAWS MT Elite is made from the same stuff as ACs, it's far more durable than the standard version. I would say a quarter to at least half the average AP levels of an AC. Going back to the BAWS MT Elite, by giving it over 4000 AP, it ensures that it puts up a fight against the average AC, as well as making it effective in close range combat by allowing it to survive hits from AC grade close combat weapons, unlike regular MTs, which go down rather quickly from even the lightest of weapons. I mean, have you seen how a standard BAWS MT takes a hit? The Corps must be saving a ton of money if their mass production combat force is made of dirt cheap, suboptimal materials. That's it for this video. If you want to know more about Smithbox, one of the best modding tools for From Software games, go and check it out in the link to Vawser's GitHub, which I'll put in the description. Definitely go and show your support to the author for making such an incredible program, or if you just enjoyed any AC6 mod in the past. In future vids, all mission-based videos will now feature a couple of the new BAWS MT Elites, which should add much needed combat variety to the MT squads. So until then, stay cool, like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.